Alright, today's Saturday, October 30th, 2010, and we're looking here at a chart of the Euro-US dollar. Let's flip this to a weekly chart, and we're going to do our end of week analysis, looking at, I guess, what happened at the end of this week on Friday, and then, of course, what we're expecting coming into next week. So one thing that really stands out here is this huge run up, and then we have three bars here that are, what I would consider correction bars, but, as you can see, price hasn't really moved anywhere relative to the rest of this huge rally. So we've had significant pushes down early in the week, and then at the end of every week the buyers come back in and push price right back up. So just looking at this price action, I would consider this very bullish, and in some sense just profit taking and not really any sort of significant sell-off here. So keeping this in the back of our minds, we should start to look at lower time frames, and obviously we can trade back and forth as this is a weekly chart. There's plenty of opportunity intraday to trade long and short, but in terms of bigger picture, maybe it's good to keep something in mind in terms of the long side. So if we bump this down to a daily chart now, we can get some more information about what's going on here. And as you can see, we had this nice little sell-off here earlier in the week, and then we did have this very bullish bar. And again, Friday's bar was a little bit indecisive because we had a very good sized correction here. We moved a significant part of the previous bar, but again, buyers were able to come back near the end of the day and push price right back up. So looking at this, just the daily bar, expect further continuation to the upside, and we have some resistance up here at the trend line, and then also some support resistance levels that we'll talk about in a minute here. Again, 4-hour chart tells the same story, a little bit more information about what's going on in those near time frames. You can kind of see that price did push up here. This is that big daily candle we just talked about, and then we had a big correction and a nice hammer bar which formed on support, and with that we just continued in the with the near term trend there. If we take it to an hourly, there's actually something here that I missed in my analysis earlier in the week, and you can see it right here. If we go way back here, there's actually a line here that goes from these, this low way down here through this swing point, and if we zoom back in here, we can kind of see how relevant it was, and you can see price came right into the zone before it sold off. So initially when price was here, I had a very bullish bias, and I did expect this trend line to hold, but after seeing this trend line coming through from way down at those levels and those two swing points, and seeing this significant rejection off this level, I was more open-minded to the bearish scenario at that point. So essentially what I did was, as planned, I was going to be a bull, until off this trend line. And I was watching this trend line, looking for some buyers to step in, and that unfortunately never happened. So if I take this down to a lower time frame here, 15-minute or even the 5-minute, for example, that's exactly what I was watching. The 5-minute at the time, trying to gauge how buyers and sellers were reacting here. So this is the line itself. I'm watching my swing points here. We come down, we have a very bearish candle and some sort of reversal bar. Still not enough price movement here to convince me to get long. And as we're watching this continue to break down, we push back up into this trend line, which is now resistance. And at this point, I take a short entry. I put a stop right above this swing point right here. And as you can see, price pushed back up again before it was rejected quite considerably, for a very nice run. Now, during this time I was sleeping, so I had my stop here about a 20 pip risk, and I woke up to this huge correction. And again, this was after that 4-hour bar formed with that hammer candle on support. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to take profit at that point, and I had to sit through, essentially wake up to this and get stopped out. And then at that point, I was watching the hourly, and I did see this bar form right here. So just focusing on that, we can kind of begin to see what price is doing here. We broke this this area of support, tagged it again, right, as support. Then we continue to break down. From that point, we had significant move up, and then we had another trend line here. Right, so pretty much this previous trend line that was support was now resistance. Again, another near-term trend line. You can see the candle here, very bearish on the hourly, and then a very nice push down. You know, and then using this trend line again as resistance, you know, I decided to take a short position on the close of this candle, and on the retracement to a near-term resistance level, I placed a short order there and a stop of the high. So, you know, one thing that I was watching at that point for this trade. Excuse me, give me 1 second here. Clear this off. It's better. All right. So one thing that I'm watching here is you know, this trend line up here. So this is some near-term, you know, support resistance. Try and gauge what price is doing. So I knew that, you know, there would be a lot of stops behind this level. At the same time, this trend line and this trend line were crossing to give you know, a significant amount of downward pressure, at least a very convincing argument to go short at that point. So I took my trade and I got stopped out. Okay, you know, right at the end of the week we had a nice push up. So at this point, our next level of resistance is this swing high right here. If we can go past that, then, you know, looking at the 4-hour chart, we have this trend line coming down. We also have some, you know, really it's a range of support resistance coming through here. You know, anywhere from 1.4 even through, you know, all the way up till, you could say, these swing highs right here at 140.80. So you know, I'm just using this shelf as support, which has been you know, relevant in the past. At the same time, it's the closest one, meaning the, you know, at the lowest price, and that is approximately 140.02 roughly. So at that point, I look for price action somewhere in, you know, in this area to really set up, and if it does, then I'll be more than happy to participate in a longer term down move. But again, you know, I need to be short here first simply because of the swing points. You can see we have these lower swing highs. You know, we do have these higher swing lows, kind of creating some sort of a triangle. But again, if this does hold, there's some opportunity here, and, you know, very quickly we'll find out if it doesn't hold that we should see a continuation here of not only, you know, what we're seeing on the daily in the near term, but also those weekly bars that we talked about earlier. And if that does blow through, you know, there's a lot of targets out there, and one of them that we can point out is you know, going to take it up to a weekly chart. We can drop in a trend line here, going from, I have to look way back, going from this swing point way up here to this swing point here. And you can kind of see some people are you know, expecting price to move up to about this 145 level. So you know, a move like that would really, you know, put us on our way to an extended move to the upside there. So that's something to keep in mind. But, you know, in the near term, if we do sell off here, there's also a considerable amount of downside potential, and that would, you know, pull us down to this swing point right here, or the lower trend line that we can draw in from this point to this point. So pretty much as price does, you know, move down here, we should see how it reacts. Again, we do have these daily swing points, and I can point those out real quick here. But the most recent one is going to be you know, this point right here. So if price can manage to move down below this level, you know, at that point we'll have lower swing lows and lower swing highs on a daily time frame, and we should be well on our way to somewhere in this area where, you know, potentially we could go long again, or again, you know, on a break we could get short. But that's something we can you know, leave for later. But so, you know, I guess the way I'm approaching this right now is you know, just completely neutral. You know, at least I'll be bearish, you know, until the market tells me otherwise. So, you know, anywhere underneath these levels right here, this is really my line in the sand. I'll be a bear on a longer term play at least. Anything above this, I'll be a bull. So next week should be exciting. You know, pretty pivotal in my opinion. But with the way the year has been moving, there's been a lot of opportunity in here. So hopefully we can make the best of it. But anyways, hope you're having a good weekend, and best of luck next week. Thanks for watching MugTrading.tk.